Hi, friends. Welcome to India Mobile Congress. This is Digital Avatar, and I'm super excited to have two amazing panelists with me for a fireside chat. I assure you one thing that we will try to keep the fire burning for the next 35 minutes. And both my colleagues are wonderful individuals. And I'm going to ask maybe Vikram first to introduce himself and then Thomas. Vikram, why don't you go ahead?
Hey, thanks, Aditya. My name is Vikram Anand. I'm based in Mumbai and I work for Ciena Networks. I'm primarily responsible for sales in the western and the southern region here. I have primarily worked with companies like Cisco, VMware, and Ericsson and Alcatel in the past. And I've worked on the enterprise side of things prior to being on the telco when I was with Siemens. So that's more about me. Yeah.
Thanks, Vikram. Thomas?
Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Thomas Sennhauser. I'm based in Singapore. I'm responsible for Asia Pacific, so from India to the Fiji Island. Unfortunately, we don't do a lot in the Fiji Island, but it would belongs to the same region. So I'm responsible from a CTO office. I'm running the CTO office, and I'm also the business lead for all the telco and partner business in Asia. And I spent the last 25 years in the telco industry. So that's maybe why I have my gray hairs here. I did different roles, from Europe, worked for telco operators, worked for ecosystem partners, and now I'm working in Intel for the last few years. And I'm super excited to be here. Wish I know we could see us more than just virtual, but hey, that's the new world we are in, and I'm looking forward to have a excited fire chat with both of you together.
Absolutely, Thomas. Great to have you here. My name is Aditya Rath. I'm a partner with KPMG for the last 6 odd years. I focus on telecom, media, and tech. I sit on the business consulting side of life. And this topic is very personal to me because this is one of the key areas that I have been working for the last several years on helping telcos build what we call is a new age business for their enterprise businesses. Secure, reliable. Those are words that telcos get it, and they've done a fabulous job around it. But what's the new age avatar going to be? What should the telcos do in the B2B space to really move the needle? The buzzword, Vikram and Thomas, is digital transformation. And
Absolutely.
and if we are not going to use that, I think we will be absolutely out of fashion, and our listeners would expect us to do that. So this whole concept of enterprise connect, in my mind, hinges on three things. One is what is the digital tools, toys, technologies that are going to drive innovation. A lot of questions around that. We've been having listeners ask us throughout this conference. The second is, are these business models making commercial sense for a telco to start investing? Because they do own the customer, but the customers don't necessarily see them as agents of digital transformation. The customers do perceive them as somebody who provides very, very critical infrastructure. But beyond that, the customers don't see them go beyond that realm. And the third is, if the first two have great potential and opportunities, how does one navigate to make most stuff out of it? What are the do's and don'ts in this journey for our telcos, for the companies which are associated with telcos, to on innovation, on products, on services, to be able to move that? I mean, sitting in India today, it's been almost 9 months since I have taken a flight. I had to take a car today to come to my workstation and do this because it's just a little bit more easier. And but we've seen huge amount of changes. The telcos have really transformed in the last 8 to 9 months to provide the capability for all of us to sit and drive what we call is our businesses. But is there a scope to do more? Are there technologies out there which they should have or can start now capitalizing to be able to move this digital transformation? So, Thomas, maybe I'll start with you. You are in a place where there's a lot of buzz around digitization. Singapore, you work for Intel, a brand which many of us know from consumer angle. Thomas, what's the new age digital that is really the opportunity universe for a telco?
Yeah, no, I think you did you summarized it quite well. What is going on, and let's first maybe discuss a little bit your first point about technology and what is available and how how can the different no, the enterprise, but also the telco really adopt it. And I think, from an Intel point of view, I mean, everybody knows, we create this black small stuff called CPU. I think that's, where is our, the last 50 plus years where we are very well known. But I think what we also do is, we really drive a lot of software enabling, because end of the day, yes, the chip is critical, but end of the day, what we see specific in the telco environment is openness and flexibility. So we need to crack that silo thinking and really bring in enabling more than just the traditional partners we have, open up for broader things. And so we invest heavy in software enabling with tons of different partners which we are supporting, enabling from an accelerator point of view, but then also from a hardware point of view, not only from a chip, GPU, our new GPU is coming out, NIC cards, ASIC, stuff which you have in the RAN, in 5G, really super critical. So all the hardware part, then the software part, and then the other part, what we are doing is we drive, I would say, little in every open standard group, open source group. Intel is partnering, is driving that, and again, that is a lot because we believe. We can have the smartest company, or we can be the smartest 2 people or 3 people here. But, we are much more smarter if we have a few hundred or a few thousand people helping each other and solving a problem. So we see really competition is driving innovation, but also openness and standardization. Because if everybody builds their stuff by themselves, and we cannot interface with each other, it slows down the business, and it slows down the business for telco, but it's also for the enterprises, because for them it's very hard then to interact and getting business B2C, C2C, whatever model you have. I think it is super critical to do that, and you also have not the flexibility then to adopt if economy is changing, or your industry is changing. You have a kind of a lock-in, and I think that's critical. The other part which I just want to quick highlight is also technology is super critical, of course, and I think we are a technology company, but what I also see as Intel, what we are driving hard is also people. Because end of the day, it's people, it's making sure your people driving the things, and we invest a lot in people diversity, and also bringing young people from university into the work, give them a chance to have that, and also have a rotation across different countries, different region, because I think that's also something where we need to learn from each other. It's really important also when you build teams that you have different viewpoints and have some a little bit of debate. You don't have always to agree with everybody in the team. I think that's also something which drives new approaches and innovation. So again, I think that's a little bit for your first point you highlighted.
No, thanks so much. I think it was absolutely brilliant, because I think you connected a lot of elements. You connected the chip, kind of zoomed out, told us how the chip is going to get used, the use cases, the smarter chip, and of course the people who are going to use it. Vikram, your opening remarks, and I would like you to hinge it in and maybe in 2 perspectives. One is, what's the new age tools and technology that a telco has at its disposal to be able to start innovating and start being much more significant player in this whole digital transformation. That's one element. And then the second element, maybe you could react to what Thomas said around how collaboration is happening in the space, because we see that that is actually going to be a significant game changer for companies which can collaborate faster, quicker to scale and create new solutions will have a greater chance of success. So Vikram, over to you.
Sure. So Aditya, I think to answer your first question, right, I'll take a step. I mean, I'll take a step back to the very beginning when you opened up, right, about what's happening on the digital transformation with the enterprise, right. I think COVID-19 and this pandemic and the lockdown, right, has only accelerated the need for digital transformation, within a lot of enterprises, because they need their lights on, right. I mean, if you have to go into a situation like this, you will obviously need your business running. Business continuity becomes very, very critical. That's where I think telcos can play a very big role in getting the business continuity part, having the remote desktop applications, so that's the very first part which they can, I believe they've already done it, right. uh, so uh, so that's already happening. Now the next part is the telcos, up till now, it's not that they've not been focusing on the enterprise, business. They have been, but it's more around the connectivity portion, right? But they are beginning to realize that they can play a much bigger role now in this entire digital transformation and technology. The evolution of the platform of their technology, right? As the every G that they've moved on to, right? They've been able to offer and create more value to the enterprises. Now, this is primarily like, let's take, for example, the 4G to 5G transformation, right? Why even go to 5G, right? Even with 4G, you have all the necessary elements that they could actually build onto, right? So you could get automation, right? Automation is very, very critical because, the whole concept of offering vertical 5G use cases, which would, or vertical enterprise use cases, right? Which would actually, offer dedicated or focused use cases or services which they could offer to the enterprises. So, like for example, connected manufacturing, healthcare, or education, right? Now, all these are dedicated vertical-based use cases which the enterprises, the telcos can really automate, create a network slice, and offer an end-to-end network which actually goes all the way up to the enterprise, right? And so automation will help them create these particular slices, help them automate them, customize SLAs, manage KPIs, right? So these are new innovative stuff which even the enterprises are not used to. So they could actually get a whole new world of offering from the telcos, right? So that's one thing. The second thing which is very important, and where I'm sure Thomas also highlighted, that is, the telcos own the real estates, right? Because they had these MSC sites which were closer to the subscribers. Now, what they could do is actually help build or cloudify these sites, right? So they actually could set up these data centers which could be closer to the customers. Those essentially can become launch pads where they could offer vertical based use cases, right? Now, these could actually come from an ecosystem. They could come, either the telcos could build them themselves, or they could come from an SI partner, right? But what they could do is, because they can cater to lower latencies, they can offer these use cases to them, or these services. Like, so all this goes together. And these are the technology part of it. The other area, obviously, as you mentioned in the very beginning, is secure and reliable. So security becomes very critical. And I think the telcos know that stuff better than anybody else, So whether to offer anything in a secured environment, I think these guys know it. So, it's whether it's about network security, managing local data. So, and look at verticals like, financial services. What do they need? Healthcare. What do they need, right? They need security. So that's the fourth thing. Now, shifting gear to the softer aspects of it, right? What Thomas mentioned, people. I think people become very critical in all this, and that's where I agree with Thomas that building that ecosystem of getting the people, grooming them onto the newer tech, and the telcos getting them absorbed, I think becomes very, very critical. And the last aspect, Aditya, is the ecosystem, right? So these guys will have to build these ecosystems, whether it is with tech folks like like Intel, right, or technology OEM partners, SI partners, right. So it's an ecosystem which will have to be built, getting the getting the right business models, getting the lower cost structures, and the go-to-market strategy will become very, very critical. And I think the telcos have understood that. They're already focusing on that because they know voice and data could only get them where they are, right? These businesses are changing. So to get more revenues and even profitable revenues, right? I think enterprise is the way to go, and the enterprises need to transform, go through the digital transformation. So it's getting to be a marriage made in heaven, and I think that's what's happening.
Vikram, absolutely. I mean, that's Thomas. If you have ever visited India, marriages are made in heaven, is what we believe. Divorces are only in the courts. But on that lighter note, Vikram, I'm going to come back to you and maybe ask you a more provocative question. A question which Indian telcos and the companies which work with them, their alliance partners, their tech partners have all been asking and grappling, and some of them are in that journey. Now, this whole transformation of the word telco to a digico or a digital company, right?
Yes.
So Vikram, my question has two very specific parts, and then I'm going to ask Thomas to respond to it. Maybe I'll react to what he said and then move to Thomas. How do you define a digital transformation from the lenses of a telco?
Okay.
And the second question is a little, and that's why I say provocative. You are a customer. You work very closely with the telcos. What is the perception gap that will make you look at a telco differently? Because it's an enterprise to enterprise sell, and enterprises telcos don't have the brand permission to be the digital transformation agents. While they do they do a heavy lifting of the transformation journey, whether it's infrastructure, whether it is the network, whether it's the fiber, whether it's the cell sites. They create huge amount of enabling forces, but they are not necessarily at the forefront of that transformation. So to repeat the question for our listeners, how do you define it, and what's the perception gap from a customer's angle?
Okay, sure. So I think if I get your question rightly, and it is provocative, right? So telcos going through the digital transformation themselves, right? So the first thing is going through their own digital transformation, right? So I think they've got that right. You are even seeing telcos now move their own workloads also in many cases, to the cloud, because they realize that yes, they can manage that. So they've transformed the end user experience, right? When it comes to their own subscribers, I think they've onboarded so many users, right? And then they've started focusing on the user management when it comes to a desktop standpoint. So I think they've got all the right things from their own IT organization. They've even built the automation stack that they've got to automate their own stuff. So I think it's a no-brainer for them to actually take this to the market. They understand this. I think they've got all the expertise, right? So your second question actually was more of me as a customer, or how was it? I mean,
if the customer is there and a telco goes and says, you are looking at all the software guys, all the SIs to do your transformation journey. We've also got all this, as you rightly mentioned, we've got this great stack. We've done it for ourselves. We've done it for our partners. Give us your digital transformation project. What's the perception that the customer, what's the gap in that perception? Will the customer say, wow, jump on it?
So, let's put it this way, right? If today I'm an enterprise CIO, right, I would look at the telco more from a connectivity provider standpoint, right? I know they offer damn good connectivity. It's with SLAs. It's very, very reliable. Okay, but can they move up the stack? Okay, I would be in doubt, right? I would look at my SI partner to do that. I would look at my hyperscaler, the cloud partner to get me more on the technology stack and create more value. But the telco actually, so one is what I mentioned earlier, right? At the cost of sounding repetitive, it's like drink your own champagne, right? So they've built it, they can go and prove it to the customer. They understand it. The other important area, I think, is, let's say for digital transformation, I believe, right, is that creating these vertical specific use cases will become critical, right? And I will need to have, a lot of stuff coming in from a service provider. Now, it could be a cloud service provider, it could be a telecom service provider. Okay, that's fine, right? I would look at a telco because they would be more efficient to offer me the low latency services better than what the others could offer. I think they would be, they would be, if they can prove it to me that they can be more agile, that's something which I think the telcos will have to work on, because agility can become a challenge as compared to the new world cloud providers. I would, expect these things to come up really.
Thomas, Vikram kind of.
Security would trust the telco more. Yeah. So.
No, sure. So Vikram got it that, hey, eat your own food that you've cooked, bring in industry-based use cases, and be more agile, Thomas. The same two questions to you.
Yeah, I mean, to put a little bit pepper in the discussion, I would say there's a long way to go. I think I agree with Anand. The telcos started to do a digital transformation, but I think the challenge they have, and to be fair to them, is they have a lot of regulator governance pressure. So they cannot start in a greenfield approach in general. They have a brownfield. They have to keep, as you said, one of the things is they have extremely good connectivity, which are high reliability. So the SLA, all the so they have a lot of these very good things, but that's built on a certain level of technology, but also complexity end of the day. And I think that's where they are struggling on the side to maybe move a little bit faster. They would love to move faster, but they have this legacy stuff. And through, I would say, through some regulator limitation they have, it's for them much harder than maybe me as a consumer. And I'm saying now I'm a dumb consumer. I don't know anything about telco network. I maybe not understand, hey, why does it take so long to get this basic service up and running? Why do they have so much problem, to get some kind of customer interfaces up and running? I mean, there's a lot of things, why did it took them so long, for billing? That's just an example, because most of the people don't know. And again, this is country specific, but because of the regulator, they have to keep some records, CDR, XDRs, which are the record of, in the old days, on the minutes from your voice call for 10 or longer time. So it was really quite complex for them to do that. So I think I see they want to do it, but again, I think they have also some a backpack which is not so easy to go ahead. And I think that's
apologies, Thomas, I'm interrupting you because you are bringing in a very pertinent point, which Vikram also kind of alluded, but he stayed clear of that. So, because I think it was more of the enablement part. But Thomas, the point that you're trying to say is the backpack pulling them down, or is the backpack a necessary evil which they're carrying? Now, the backpack would be evolution. Many of us realize who've worked in companies long enough to know that there is a particular reason why we can't be agile. Vikram alluded to that point also, that agility would be a very key differentiation. The whole digital transformation in the enterprise connect world, because they're going to sell to B2B. It's not B2C. B2C, they're perfected the art. They possibly are. The people, in fact, look at various other industries, look at the telco. So Thomas, if you could double click on that backpack a little bit more for us, can you just open it for us? What's holding them back from being a digital transformation player?
Again, I'm not saying, completely they're not doing it, just to be clear. They're doing it, but I think it's hold them a little bit back. As I said, one is regulator. I mean, one of the things is, and again, every country has a little bit different regulator, but in general, we have a lot of regulator limitation they have. So they have to be, if they are down, if their network is down, let's say for 12 hours, that has a huge impact. They can lose their license. If one of the big startup, I don't name any name, but there was an outage a few days ago, or other stuff, where our kids playing around is down. Of course, everybody complains about it, and it's like the things. But in the end, this big company, they have a customer problem, but they not have a governance issue behind that. So they are still in business. They lose money, yes, but that's it. So I think that's one of the things. The other thing is also, I think, where they come from. What I mean is, when we built network the last 25 years, it was very, it was not so open. You went to, not to a partner, you went to a vendor, and then this guy delivered to you part of your network very silo. And I think that's changing now, but I think you cannot change overnight that relationship from I call it from a vendor to a partner. Partner means yes, I have a contract, but I trust you. Anand, yes, you come to my network, and yes, I know something is maybe not working. So, and I also need, as a telco operator, take a little bit more responsibility. I cannot go to one and say, hey, you fix, it's all your problem. It's getting more, again, this ecosystem opening up is, again, most of the telcos, they're doing that, and we have good example, especially also in the India market. I would say, they're definitely ahead of the curve, but it takes time. And I think that's maybe a little bit, a challenge. And again, this is from the history, from the DNA they have to do that. And then the last thing, coming back to my, I love to talk about people because I really believe people is critical, is it's very hard for some of the telcos to find this, these new kids on the block who learned, have a different education as we had. They don't understand, they never did, a C or a machine programming or COBOL or any of this complex stuff. They learned an upper higher skill set of doing it. And I'm not saying that's bad, but that is a different mindset they have. And motivating them, to work for, I would call it, the telco is a little bit more the old-fashioned company versus, this, a cool startup company who, has a different DNA, food is free and all the stuff, whatever. The competition is very, very hard to get the young, good people on board. And I think that's a challenge also on the digital transformation, which is also not so easy for traditional companies. And I mean, my company too, it's very hard for us. I mean, yes, we are on the edge. We try to transform, but it's always challenging when you're in a transformation versus you start somewhere, from a greenfield or you don't have any. That's where I see where it's also a little bit challenging in the digitalization. And quick, and then I close is, on the COVID side, I think we saw it's possible for them to do it when it's really urgent. So I don't say, that will not work. It will work, but it takes maybe a little bit longer. And maybe, again, we all as partner, we need also to help them lesson learn and drive that a little bit and be more really sharing the things more open. And again, ecosystem standards, it's super critical because that will help us all to drive that in a better way.
No, Thomas, perfect. You kind of unfolded the bag a little bit more than I would have imagined. So thank you so much for doing that. The last segment, which I kind of said at the beginning, is to ask the question that what's their sweet spot and what is that they should not do? Thomas, I'm going to start with you. You mentioned about the regulatory hurdle. Assume that some of the regulatory hurdles are more for their service providers, but this is about they creating innovative solutions and products to take to their customers. You obviously have the very exciting infrastructure as a service. Many of them have perfected the art well. You obviously have software as a service, which some have done, some haven't even scratched the surface. And then you have this new age term called platform as a service, which is very fungible, ubiquitous, being there, done that kind of a model where so many other different use cases are in the market. So Thomas, what are the two things that they should definitely pick up as their sweet spot? And what are the two things that the telco should stay away from in this whole enterprise connect space? And then maybe Vikram, you can pick that up.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things where I again strongly believe is definitely what they should pick up is, the time is over where you can spend 1 year on specification, 2 years on testing, and then 3 years on roll out something. I think that time is over. I think what they really need to do is, coming into a DevOps model, cloudification, really using this new technology or methodology which is available and driving that and take a little bit more risk. I mean, things is you have to take some risk to drive that transformation on it. And with that, I think also the other part is don't try to do that, in the big stuff and everywhere. Start small, learn give the team or people a chance to learn. And again, where people work, things will not work, will sometimes fail. It's sometimes not always nice weather all the time, sometimes thunderstorm coming and it's a little bit bumpy. But hey, if we go through that together, we can achieve wonderful things. And I think that's something which telcos, but in general, when you go through digitalization and transformation is critical. Start small, give the people the freedom to drive things, coach them, mentor them, and see the progress, and then extend it. Don't make the big, now we change completely something. In general, it's failing. I mean, all my, when we did big project, most of them were either delayed, over budget. Some of them failed dramatically, to be honest with you. And the reason was just they were too big, they were too ambitious, and then it failed. So I think that would be a little bit from the aspects of what they should do and what they maybe not should do. And the other part is also software is the driver end of the day. So what you need to do is you need to enable more a platform, a framework which allows to build services, which we maybe, I would say, hey, I would maybe not even believe that service you will ever make money, but you need to open up to an ecosystem. Again, ecosystem openness again is the key thing. But open up your network, give developers, especially in countries like India, you have a huge local market where maybe things will happen in Delhi, which maybe in Bangalore nobody cares about it. But you know what? The market in Delhi is so huge. You can make money out of that, and if you you can deploy that in Chennai suddenly. So you have a flexibility. So if you have services on the micro, on the latest technology, and you can deploy them wherever you want fast, I think that's definitely super critical. To use that. And what was voice SMS in the old days, these days is really application software flexibility. You have to do that. And again, it comes then to, from the data center to the edge or far edge, enabling, where data are created, manipulate them, not that you have to send them back, even with 5G, where you have literally unlimited, data throughput. You still want to manipulate the data where they were, I call it, where they were born, as close to the customer, to the enterprises where it's happening. So I think that's another part. So I think that software stack, building services like, the big cloud provider able to do, they bring up new services. Some of them disappear after 6 months. I think that's something also the telco, should try to adopt that and play that harder. And then the other part is really collaboration. I mean, don't try to build everything by yourself. Build with collaboration. Sometimes you're with a competition. Sometimes you partner with them. But in end of the day, collaboration is a super critical part too to be successful. And I think that's something we all need to learn. To be much more open and much more collaborative in that environment. And I think then, again, we can do really amazing stuff and really change not only what we are doing, it's also the society and helping people across, from enterprise, a lot of small startups, etc. I think, again, the future is in us. I think we have it in our own hand if we do the right things together.
Thomas, I was really anxious that you haven't talked of collaboration. I'm glad you kind of touched that. Vikram, the same too. What are the few things that they should definitely do, and what are the few things that they should not do to be able to really take the Enterprise Connect to the next level, where they are a part of this entire digital transformation story?
So, Aditya, I think you see the things that they need to do is get the entire service creation aspect right. So service innovation would become very important. They need to, and they do understand the enterprise vertical very well, right? But they need to go beyond the connectivity, move into move out from the data center towards the user, right? I think that's very critical in the enterprise. They need to start managing the end user. and that's where you become more relevant to the CIO. Okay, start understanding the customer's customer and how you can really create relevance there, because that's where, to Thomas's point, the cloud providers or the hyperscalers are doing that very well. They can really innovate these services, roll them out, roll them off very well, right? But I think the telcos have got the agility point of it right, especially in this pandemic. With when it came to business continuity, they had to roll it out. They had pressure from the enterprise customers, and they did it. They delivered, right? So, if you ask me, this has also been a very big catalyst for them to know and understand innovation. To Thomas's point, at the cost of sounding repetitive, I think collaboration will be very critical, because you try to do it all by yourself and you'll miss the bus, right? Uh, every partner in the ecosystem can bring in a lot of value, right, to the end enterprise customer. So if you build an ecosystem, that value only gets multiplied, right? Because everybody is adding that value, and the enterprise is also realizing it, that he's getting a one-stop solution rather than going shopping, to various stakeholders. He has one team which is putting their skin in the game. Yes, I know it's easier said than done, but I think this will be the new way in the new normal, right? And then the last thing is move up the application layer, right? Because infrastructure will only get you that much, right? You need to, and to move up to the software as a service layer, you need those partnerships, because you will need to tie up with an ISP partner to help take that to the market, right? So that's a living example. Platform as a service, as you rightly mentioned, would be something which you could do that, especially now, right? But the last thing is, which is very important, is the telcos will be making significant investments while they move from 1G from 4G to the 5G, right? And all those investments will have a major say in the enterprise play. And I think, if you really want to see a successful 5G business case, it won't come with voice and data alone, right? Because a customer is only going to pay you that much. So, leverage those assets and build those services and get more revenues and profitability out of the enterprise. And there are uniqueness, right? So, like, leverage your edge. You have the real estate, go leverage it, and they've got it. I mean, it's not that they've not got it, and they're working towards it. And I can tell you, telcos you will see them making a difference. That's true.
Absolutely. We are three of us are, so if any colleagues on our telcos and their partners network are listening to us, they would have understood there are three big fans out here for having. This is an absolute pleasure to talk to both of you. As I had promised that we would touch upon several different aspects, but just to summarize it, and maybe I'm going to do that in a couple of minutes and give each one of you 30 seconds to kind of respond to what I summarize is, I think the key for Enterprise Connect is to be able to innovate by knowing and understanding what your enterprise customers need. I think telcos have done that, but the need has dramatically changed, and we all believe and agree to the fact that there is a huge scope for the telcos and their partner networks to start capitalizing on that. The definition of digital transformation for a telco, again, I think Vikram and Thomas, it is safe to assume that it's not the same as what a software integrator would do or what a product company would do. They have a very unique space. They can choose between the infrastructure, software, or a platform, or a combination of all three. That makes them extremely powerful. And as both of you mentioned, they've done it at home, so they have done it for themselves, and they can now transform and take this to market. What will work is agility. What will work is collaboration. What they have to be very careful is not to go and start doing a lot of things. Start small, but start making more successful stories, because that's what the industry is going to look at. Because industry hasn't really got widespread success whenever it comes to digital transformation, because it's the one aspect that I would like to add on the digital transformation is that the conversation has to change and go to a larger stakeholder in the boardroom. And maybe the telcos do have that connect, but they would have to start now using that connect to change that perception. So 30 seconds to Thomas, you, 30 seconds to Vikram, and then I'm going to wind it up. So any closing thoughts on this subject? Thomas, you.
Yeah, again, I think the telco have all the ingredients. Again, I don't see there's something missing. And one thing what maybe is also super critical, I think, is they in general have a value, which is they have the local content, they have the local intimities. They know exactly what is going on. I think there's a lot of, again, India, super huge country. There's a lot of small local business, which 20 years ago nobody would think around it. Local TV station, broadcasting some information. There's a lot of stuff, I think, which they can leverage, building services again with a software stack, which allows you to create something which in the old days technology just not was able to do. I think that's definitely one thing. The other thing is, I think, also is the connectivity between enterprises and telcos. The collaboration needs to get stronger. It's not about, hey, I have a pipeline, how much do you need? It's about how can I help you also on the digital transformation, the experience they have jointly together to customize the demand what they have. I think if they do that, again, I think it's definitely the things. And with 5G, I think is a platform here where the transformation is kind of speed up to drive that transformation even faster now. So I think technology is ready. I think we have unfortunately a very, very challenging environment with the COVID stuff, which again I think will speed up the digitalization dramatically. At least when you see the schooling stuff, remote schooling. A few months ago, beginning of the year, nobody would believe that people can have remote from home, for kindergarten, for all the stuff, and suddenly it works. So I think it's ready. It's really just a kind of a push. It's needed, to drive things.
Absolutely, Vikram. Your last minute.
Well, I think the telcos understand this, right? They're working towards it, and they need to move beyond connectivity, right? Create more value for the enterprise and value for themselves and their shareholders, right? Because voice and data, while they'll keep growing from a consumer standpoint, enterprise will become very critical. The pandemic has only become a turning point and a catalyst for an inflection point actually for them to accelerate the enterprise bandwagon. And they've got the technology, right? They've got the collaboration. I mean, there are partners amongst the OEM community, the SI community, who are ready to partner with them, bring a lot of value. So and they're also getting the people, right? So so you can say all stars in traditional India, right? All stars are aligning for them to move into that space, and it's all about just moving there and getting it going. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to us. I hope you've made your notes. We've tried to be as direct, as clear, as straightforward as we could. Great times for everyone. The stars are aligned, as Vikram says. Thomas says that 8 months before, if somebody is asked, is there entertainment from home, work from home, schooling from home, partying from home, you would not have imagined, but that's all now. There are some versions possible. It's been absolute pleasure, gentlemen, having you both here. The way you've described, without any holds bars. So it's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for listening to us. See you soon.
Thank you.